We're looking for all of the things that we've been talking about. We want to see no nuclear bomb, no nuclear weapon, not even close to it. Low key on the missiles. We want to see peace in the Middle East.
Here's something most people will never say out loud, but it's the truth. When a country loses its navy, its air force, its leadership, and its air defenses, all in the span of hours, the war isn't a war anymore. It's a statement. And the United States was making one. The date was March 20th. Somewhere inside the walls of government in the United Kingdom, a decision was signed, sealed, and authorized. The British government had approved the use of two of its most strategic military installations, Royal Air Force Station Fairford and the island base of Diego Garcia, for active American combat operations against Iranian missile positions. That authorization didn't just open a door. It unleashed what was already waiting behind it. Because at RAF Fairford, the machines were already awake. The B-52H Stratofortress is not a subtle aircraft. It doesn't sneak. It doesn't whisper. It arrives. And on this morning, two of them were being prepared for a mission that would send a message with fire and steel. Ground crews worked in organized precision. 8 engines per aircraft, Pratt & Whitney TF-33 turbofans, each one opened, inspected, checked blade by blade for fractures or damage from foreign objects. Nothing was left to chance. Nothing was assumed. Then came the weapons. Hydraulic munitions loaders, heavy vehicles known as MJ-1 jammer trucks, rolled up to the aircraft carrying the ordnance. The B-52H can carry up to 70,000 pounds of mixed weapons. On this mission, the primary loads were 2,000-pound Mark 84 general-purpose bombs, roughly 12 feet long each, and AGM-86C conventional cruise missiles, each weighing over 3,000 pounds, capable of striking hardened targets from more than 600 miles away without the aircraft ever entering defended airspace. For precision work, GBU-31 JDAM guided bombs, 2,000-pound GPS-directed weapons, were loaded for strikes on missile storage bunkers. Every bomb and missile was lifted carefully onto the external wing pylons and into the internal bomb bay, locked onto what's called the Common Strategic Rotary Launcher. Think of the rotary launcher as the bomber's revolving chamber, a cylindrical drum inside the bomb bay holding up to 8 weapons. When the order to release is given, the drum spins, bringing each weapon into position one by one. The bomb bay doors don't need to open and close between each drop. The drum does the work. Faster. Cleaner. More lethal. Crews tested it, spinning the launcher through its full rotation, confirming every weapon station locked and released properly, verifying every electrical connection to the fire control system. The aircraft was ready. Now the men had to get ready. 5 crew members per aircraft. The flight to Iran, one way, would take approximately 4.5 hours. In the crew room, pilots checked oxygen masks against their faces, tested the regulators, confirmed intercom connections. They packed flight bags, water, food, maps, checklists, everything needed for a mission lasting many hours in the air. In the cockpit, the pilot and co-pilot strapped into ejection seats positioned side by side on the upper deck. They entered the mission coordinates, waypoints from RAF Fairford southeast across Europe and the Mediterranean to Iran, and verified every instrument. Altimeters. Airspeed indicators. Engine gauges. Fuel. Radios. Terrain following radar. Every system checked. Every reading confirmed. Below them on the lower deck sat 2 more specialists working in tandem. On the right, the navigator. His job was to own the route, timing, positioning, waypoints. He was the human GPS of the aircraft, constantly cross-referencing the navigation systems and feeding course corrections to the pilots above. Speed up. Slow down. Adjust heading. He kept the bomber on schedule down to the second. On the left, the radar navigator. The bombardier. He ran 4 screens simultaneously: radar returns, weapon status, target coordinates, delivery parameters. His job was to identify the targets using the offensive avionics system, select the right weapon for each one, and released the ordnance at the exact moment to achieve maximum accuracy. He was, in many ways, the most important man on the aircraft when it mattered most. When everything was confirmed, the order was given. The B-52s taxied out to the runway at RAF Fairford, heavy under the weight of a full bomb load and maximum fuel. They lined up on the center line. The pilots pushed all 8 throttles forward. The bombers used nearly the full length of the runway before lifting off. They headed southeast, across Europe, across the Mediterranean, 2 aircraft flying in formation toward Iran. When they reached the target area, control of the aircraft shifted. The radar navigator on the lower deck took over. He confirmed target coordinates on his screens, verified weapon selections, and commanded the bomb bay doors open. The rotary launcher spun. Bombs and missiles dropped in rapid sequence from the open bay, falling toward Iranian missile positions below. The radar navigator tracked every release, confirming separation, watching each weapon close on its target. When the payload was gone, the doors closed. The aircraft turned away. The 2 B-52s followed the planned return route, but not directly back to Britain. The mission called for a refueling stop at Sofia Airport in Bulgaria, not because the aircraft needed it, the fuel tanks had enough range to make England without stopping, but because the mission plan demanded operational flexibility. A precaution. A contingency. The kind of thinking that keeps a mission alive even when things go sideways. On landing back at Fairford, drag parachutes deployed from the tails of both aircraft, large chutes billowing out behind the bombers, bleeding off speed on the runway and shortening the rollout. But the story wasn't over. At an American B-52 base back in the United States, a third crew was already being briefed. Another bomber was needed at Fairford to sustain the strike operations. The aircraft was fueled, inspected, and already loaded with ordnance for its first combat sortie out of the British base. The pilots loaded their gear, their survival equipment, mission publications, crew provisions for the long crossing, and departed east over the Atlantic. Hours into the flight, a KC-135 Stratotanker appeared on the radar. The B-52 moved in from below and behind, closing carefully until the tanker's boom operator extended the refueling boom downward. The pilot held the massive bomber perfectly steady while fuel flowed through the connection. When the transfer was complete, the boom disconnected, and the B-52 dropped back and continued east, toward England, toward Fairford, toward the next mission. This is what modern air power looks like when the decision has already been made. Not a debate. Not a warning. A bomber on a runway. A rotary launcher spinning. An ordnance falling precisely where it was always going to fall. The cards had been played. Please subscribe for more.